Welcome to Let's Talk Real Estate USA, and today we have Chase Craig of Own Boise and Smart Wealth Equity. We're going to be talking syndications, living a bigger life, how to change that mindset. Hit the like and subscribe button below for more weekly content. Let's get going. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Talk Real Estate USA. Today we have Chase Craig of Own Boise and Smart Wealth Equity. We're talking syndication investing. We're talking building a team out, et cetera, et cetera. Hey, Chase, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you doing, Craig?
Doing great. All right, let's get going. So let's start right from the very beginning. How'd you get into real estate? Tell us the story.
Awesome. So, I get the opportunity to speak in front of a lot of groups, and I always ask a question: how many of you have lived paycheck to paycheck? And, most hands go up, and then I say, how many of you live tax return to tax return? And, some of those hands go down, and some know what I'm talking about. And basically, I was very, very, very broke. My paychecks didn't cover my living expenses, so I was married. 2 kids, wife's going to school full time. We have one income, and somehow they loaned me money to buy a house. I owned a house, and I was 22 years old. And I was actually working at the Home Depot, and I'll never forget. I was making $12 an hour, and somehow just staying alive. And I at Home Depot they give you a raise basically once every year unless you get a promotion. Well, I took another job. It was a lateral move is what they called it, 8 months into my raise cycle, which allegedly started my whole raise cycle over. So I didn't get a raise for 20 months. So 20 months, I finally get my raise. And this is the part where I usually ask, what do you guys think it was? So maybe you guys comment what you thought my raise was.
Is it like $1 or less?
Yeah, 28.5 an hour. And they looked me dead in the face. My boss was a really nice lady. Wasn't on her, I'm sure. But she looks me dead in the face and she says, hey, great news, Chase. We're going to round up that half a cent to 29. And for those of you with calculators out there, 2,080 hours a year at half a cent is $10.40 extra that they gave me. And I'll never forget just the feeling of being trapped. It didn't matter how hard that I worked in that business. Didn't matter how good I did. Didn't matter how much I excelled. I wasn't being rewarded for the energy I put in. There was people that put in way less energy, but they were older than me and maybe been with the company longer and they're making more money. I was just like, this is ridiculous. And I had a low point too. I'll never forget yelling at my wife for buying grapes. It was like one of those out-of-body experiences, where she bought like $2 in grapes, and I'm like, grape money? We don't have grape money. And I was upset, and obviously I wasn't upset at her. I was upset with myself, because I couldn't provide for my family to even buy frickin' $2 in grapes. So, long story short, it seemed like the same day. I'm sure it wasn't, but I bumped into one of the people that used to work for me at the company, and I was his boss, and we changed departments. And so I bumped into him, and he said, "We should get our real estate licenses."
Which company was this? Which company was this?
This was at Home Depot still. Still
okay.
At Home Depot. I hadn't left, but it was one of my former employees. I used to run flooring, paint, and decor. He was one of my carpet specialists.
22 years old, Home Depot.
Yep. Still 22, still Home Depot, and bump into Randy. Randy's his name. He says, we should get our real estate licenses. And I was like, what's that? And so that night, I literally signed up for the class. And I actually ended up taking night courses because I didn't have vacation time to take off. And, so I took real estate school for 3 months, 3.5 months night courses. and I finally got my license. And Randy never did get his license, by the way. And he actually he worked at Home Depot for a long time. Now he's working at another company. But yeah, so fast forward to today. I'll fill in some of the blanks if you want, but I've sold over 3,500 homes. Realtor Magazine's 30 under 30, that's what that plaque is. In 2011, youngest Realtor of the Year for the Boise Association of Realtors here in Boise, Idaho, in the history of it, out of over 10,000 agents. And yeah, I've been blessed. Real estate has blessed me with, we've got great money, I guess you could say. We're good. Real estate has been incredible. And I tell people this, at Home Depot, I was trapped. It didn't matter how hard I worked. I was going to get paid whatever they decided I was worth. It wasn't even what they decided I was worth. I was just going to get paid whatever they felt like they could get away with paying me. But in real estate, I can look myself in the mirror and I can know that I earned exactly what I got. Good or bad, by the way. But my destiny was in my hands. And there's not very many careers where day one you can have that.
So let's first talk about your real estate, agent life, and then let's break into syndications because
Sure.
That's your new thing. But let's talk about also, I think I remember reading Boise was one of the hottest markets for a long time. So do you think it was a combination of you were in the right place at the right time and your hard work that made so much money?
Yeah, good question. So I guess I'll start from the beginning, and I'll kind of microwave the story for you a little bit. So 17 years in the business, over 3,500 homes sold. The first 5.5 years, I actually joined a new construction company, the top builder in our area. And I thought, here's my thinking. At the time, the average agent there sold about, the average agent across the United States sold about 4 or 5 homes a year. Just call it 5. And I knew that this new construction company, the average agent sold about 20 homes a month. And so my naivety was okay, well, I'm going to join this new construction company, and 1 month is 20 homes. Divide that by, let's just call it 4. That's 5 years of experience. If I work there 6 months, I'm going to have 30 years experience. And while that's true when it comes to writing and negotiating contracts, I think you do get about 30 years of experience in a short period of time. You're missing a lot. So I actually thought I'd be there 6 months and then go on my own. I was there 5.5 years. I had an incredible leader. We were basically a mega team without even knowing we were a mega team. We were selling a lot of houses there. But I left because I, hit a ceiling, a growth ceiling. Both financially, I was making over $100,000 a year, which coming from $23,000 a year was incredible. Mm-hmm. But you make over $100,000 a year now, and you realize that you could be making more. And I was asking for more, and they just didn't create new opportunity for me. So that's why I left. So 2005 I joined, 2011 I left. Fast forward, I left CBH, the builder that I was with. I left them in 2011, started on my own, and basically I had sales skills, I had some reserves so I could go, but not much. In fact, we had a brand new baby that year that I left. We found out we were having a baby. We intended to, and we found out we were excited we were having a baby. But I also happened to find out my wife wasn't going to go back to work. So I was like, okay. So I had some real in-my-face motivation, which was great. That's what I need. So 2011, I left, started from scratch, 25 homes sold in 2011. 2012, hired a part-time assistant, 20 hours a week, 45 homes sold. 2013, hired a showing agent with a part-time assistant, 79 homes sold. And that's when I started realizing, okay, I actually need to be serious about growing a team. It's not the chase show anymore. It's time to grow a team. So I bounced around between 60 and 100 deals until about 2018. And then I started pursuing, I stopped taking listings and started pursuing some bigger opportunities. And we broke through. I think our biggest year was 2020. We sold 225 homes. Last year, 2021, we had a large new construction prevalence there, so that was a pretty big boost. But last year, 2021, we sold 165 homes. And, this year, 2022, we're pacing closer back to that 100 number. But two things, market shifting, and I've had a little bit of a distraction with Smart Wealth Equity, which I know we're going to talk about a little bit.
So this is one thing I've been discovering, which is the mindset of when you start making more money. So when I was a performer, I was making like $40K. And then I became a teacher, and then all my side gigs, I was suddenly making $80K. And this year, I'm going to make $150K. And it is a very different mindset trying to allow yourself, what is something that people say? Don't have self-limiting beliefs. So how did you deal with suddenly going from broke to suddenly you're in the top 1% in Idaho?
Yeah.
You're a one percenter. Like, let's be serious.
It's a really good, it's a great question actually. And it's a real thing. You get the imposter syndrome creeps in, or the worthy syndrome, or, you might just get complacency, right? And so there's so many things that we could go down here, and I know we don't have enough time to go down all of them, but there's a couple things that really come to mind. So the first one is the E to P model, so entrepreneurial to purposeful. And everyone on the planet, whether it's you and me, or if it's Elon Musk, or if it's, doesn't matter who you are, everyone has a natural ceiling of achievement. And so doing what comes natural is going to help you get to that ceiling of achievement. And I can just think about in my life over the last 17 years of being in the real estate business where I get complacent. And, sometimes you just snap out of it. It might be a week, it might be 3 months where you're just doing the motions and you're not really pushing yourself. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, crap, I'm just doing the same thing over and over again. And so on the other side of that ceiling of achievement is the purposeful side. It's where, it's uncomfortable, by the way. Like, you've got to do things that aren't natural. They are uncomfortable. You got to push yourself. And so it's a really interesting dynamic that you have. So that's one, is just recognizing that, there may or may not be a ceiling of achievement that you're bouncing against. The other one, I think, would be having a mentor or coach that can help you get through this stuff. As you start to make more money, you hire, you might have the ability to hire a professional coach that can help you stay on track and stay in the discomfort and stay in the push mode. But just from a simple fact of having money, I firmly believe money is good for the good it can do. And so many people, want to tell themselves like, well, I have enough and that's okay. Well, let me ask you some questions. Like, if someone you love very close to you has something happen and they need money, like, are you ready to write a check for them? Is that where you're at? And if so, congratulations, but just go down the list. What about the organizations or the charities or the purposes and causes you believe in? Like, are you reaching your potential so you can help them reach their potential? And so I think finding that bigger why is really important. Funny story, back to my very first commission check ever. I was 22, so remind everyone there. I was like, as soon as I get my first commission, I'm going to buy this super fancy bottle of tequila. And it was super fancy to me because I was poor.
Was it Patron?
It was 1800 silver.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I was like, oh yeah, it was like a $25 bottle or something like that. But it didn't have to be big. It was big to me. Mm-hmm. And now I buy, whatever, a $500 bottle of whiskey or something to celebrate. So I've moved on to the whiskey world, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Got the little whiskey pictures here.
I was wondering.
Yeah. But my point of that whole thing is, like, you can gamify this to push yourself. So like, if your big why, like my big why, it took me a long time to really understand it. But it's maximizing the potential of everyone in my world. I'm a coach at heart. I love to help people reach their potential. That's what I do. So I put myself in positions to be able to lead other people and help grow them to their potential. So I coach business owners, real estate agents. I get to go speak and do things like that. I get to do stuff like this. Like if there's only one person that ever listens to this, I'm sure there's more than that. But even if there's only one person that listens to this and they get something out of it, that gives me fulfillment. So that's my big why. Mm-hmm. But above that, as the MREA teaches us, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book teaches us, is being the best version of yourself. So if you don't know what your big why is, maybe, like I remember when I first got into business, there was someone that wanted to dig wells in Africa and someone else wanted to go save babies and puppies. And I was like, damn, I just want to make money. I didn't really know what I wanted.
Yeah.
So what I realized, though, is like, okay, being the best version of myself, that's something I can never achieve, so it can always push me. But one last thing, and this will wrap up that why conversation, is how can I gamify it? Because being the best version of myself, I'll never achieve. So it might feel kind of fruitless, because if you're like, if I miss today, no big deal. But how do you gamify it? So, I just got done drinking my coffee, for example, or tonight I might have a whiskey, a nightcap. What if I challenged myself and said, hey, I get to have a whiskey tonight as long as I do X today? Mm-hmm. And if you start to push yourself in those ways, you can gamify this business and keep, because like some of my, I wish I could draw. I'm such a whiteboard visual person, but there's like a pyramid, okay? Why? They're all leading up to your big why, which is whatever that is. And then, of course, above that's the best version of yourself. Well, there's little whys along the way. So, like, I remember my first one, because we're going to go talk about investing here in just a second. My first one was buy a rental property. Well, that could be years away, right? So how does that keep you motivated day in and day out in this real estate business that can be really hard? So that's far away. So what's a closer one? How about taking my wife on a date to a fancy restaurant? What needs to happen between now and then? And then how about today? Like, I don't get to drink my coffee tomorrow if I don't do X today. Mm-hmm. So that's a fun way to gamify it. I challenge you all listening, if you're in real estate or any sales for that matter, like, find a way to gamify it. Have your whys along the way, the bigger ones, like an investment property or maybe a vacation with your family or whatever it may be. So, I don't know. Is that making sense, Craig?
It does. Actually, the owner of my brokerage told me that before he was in real estate, he was in internet sales or tech sales. And he said, before I got to have lunch, I had to have 20 conversations. And if I had the 20 conversations by 11, I got to have lunch at 11. And if it didn't happen till 2, it didn't happen till 2.
And if it didn't happen at all, I'm losing weight.
Yep, he's gonna faint from hunger. So, it is that every person's different. For me, it's I need to get here's a great example. This morning, instead of doing calls, I had a new member breakfast for this Chamber of Commerce I joined. And I went, and I got like 10 new contacts, including one, which I have no idea how in God's name I'm going to find this thing for this guy. He needs like 5 acres because he does electric charging stations, and he needs a complex somewhere near Newark.
So it's probably going to be pretty expensive, I'm guessing.
Yes, I'm hoping. But I also was like, whew. But it's the whole idea that my goal is always to add at least 5 contacts a day. Does it have to be calling? Could it be an event? Could it be whatever? But by 9:30 this morning, I already had 10. And I was like, perfection. So whatever crap happens for the rest of the day, at least I got that. So let's switch over into syndications, because suddenly you're starting to make big money. For me, it's that I know I need to start making lots more money so I can do the syndications. So number one, tell us the quick story. I know you love telling that story about how you got into syndications, and let's also talk about what a syndication is.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I'll try and be brief. So 2020 rolls around. I'm in Gary's top 100 mastermind, and so we're masterminding with agents, and he brings a tax advisor on, a guy named Tom Wheelwright, who's written a couple books that you need to listen to, Tax-Free Wealth, and yep, Craig's finding them. So there's a couple books he's written. So he's on our mastermind telling us.
I want to point this out. If you look at his picture, you can tell that he was wearing makeup because there's makeup on the shirt.
That's so funny.
And I'm looking at it being like, it's got to be fake. No, it's there. It's there.
That's hilarious. So Tom is talking to us about some really, really smart stuff, and syndications is one of them. But honestly, it was kind of going in one ear and out the other because I was listening to the stuff I needed, which there was some estate planning and tax planning and some other stuff. So that's happening. Meanwhile, I've got a good friend of mine who I've went into the World Series of Poker with and played, in the World Series of Poker with him for 10 years. And him and I always talk real estate, and he's in this real estate syndication world, and he's telling me I need to check it out. But I mean, I'm no dummy. I've been investing. I've got, commercial property. I've flipped some land. I'm doing land development. I've got residential income property. So I'm investing in real estate, and I kind of, just to be frank, like we all have a little bit of an ego, and I'm kind of like, look, dude, I've been doing this a long time. I'm good. So all these things are happening, and some of you listen to this might be having that same ego, so apologize for myself and you. You'll figure it out. We always do eventually. Yeah, so meanwhile, I go meet with my accountant, and that year 2020, we were selling a lot of homes, and I wanted to meet with him to kind of get an idea of what I was looking at, what the damage was, and he's like, hey, it's going to be about $500,000 that you owe. And I was like, what? And I was like, do the accountant stuff. And he's like, I already did it. You owe $500,000. And I'm like, there's got to be something. He's like, there's nothing. So hiring a great accountant might be some of the advice I would give you here. And I don't feel like I had necessarily the best accountant. But it was like a divine sign or something. I walk out, check my voicemail from that very meeting. And there's a voicemail from a good friend of mine who happens to do delivery service for Amazon. And so I call him back, and he's like, hey, I'm having trouble renting Amazon vans. I want to buy about 20 of them. Are you interested in going in half with me? And long story short, we realized that we could buy $800,000 in Amazon vans and write them off, and that would lower my tax burden tremendously. And I felt like a genius. So call my accountant. He's like, Long
story short, you took what would have gone to the government and you put it into investing.
That's correct. That's correct. Investing in Amazon vans.
Mm-hmm. So this is what people don't get also, is that it's not like you're cheating the government.
No.
You're putting money into an area that the government wants you to put money into.
That's why they have the write-off. Yeah, you got it. Because they want people to buy those vans. They want those vans to go to work, right? Like, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a really good perspective. And it's totally true. The incentive wouldn't be there tax-wise if they didn't want you to do it, right? So that's all the tax code is the government controlling where you spend your money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really. And if you don't want to spend it that way, no problem. They'll just take your money. And then they'll spend it the way they want. So if you want the government to spend your money instead of you, go for it. But I felt like a genius. I left. I saved hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes, and I had a new investment that was paying me money. And 3 months go by, and it all just clicks. What Gary and Tom were saying, what my business partner Chris was saying, is I realized I could have done the same exact thing, but I could have bought real estate instead of Amazon vans. And while the Amazon vans were a decent investment, I'm a real estate guy. Like, I'm not an Amazon van guy. And I kind of feel helpless in the Amazon van world, and I wish I didn't own them. And so the joke has been like my mission as I started this company with my business partner Chris, my poker friend I was telling you about earlier. We started Smart Wealth Equity together. My mission was to go talk to other top producing real estate agents who are looking to invest and have a big tax burden, and help them realize that they can invest in real estate and lower their tax base, so they don't own Amazon vans like me. So yeah, that's how we got into it, and that was honestly about a year ago at this time that we made the decision, like, hey, we're going to start this company.
So what are syndications?
So a syndication is basically a combining of resources. So you have some expertise and a business plan, and then you have money, and you wrap all those together. So a really simple example would be like, I can't go buy a $10 million apartment complex right now. I can't. But me and Craig and some of our friends and other people we know, collectively we could. So how do we do that together? Well, enter the syndication. And in the syndication, there's really two parts to it. You've got the general partnership. Those are the people that will be running the deal. So they found the deal. They're going to be making all the stuff happen. They're going to be working the business plan for the entirety of the deal. Then you have the limited partner. And this is someone who simply is just writing a check. All they do is put money into the deal, and they get whatever the expected return is from that deal. So that's what a syndication is.
Mm-hmm. And the thing about syndications, the reason I like syndications is you're investing, especially if you're a limited partner, you get to invest in real estate. You get the three things, which are appreciation, cash flow, and depreciation, if you qualify for the depreciation. And you get all those three, and someone else is doing the work.
Yeah. It's phenomenal. It's literally mailbox money, mailbox money is a cool term, but it's bank box money, right? It just shows up in your auto distributions.
Now flip it also, and for the general partner, they're getting those three things, but what else are you getting? Because I'm sure you're not doing this for free.
Oh, no. As a general partner, you get active participation. So from a tax standpoint, you can actually, there's just some things you can do with the active participation side. Obviously, if you are into it, like I'm into it, I mean, all the investments I've done, I've always had my hands in them. That's what I like to do. So I really enjoy being into it. But the real upside is the way that these deals are structured. Now, not all deals are structured the same way, but for our group, Smart Wealth Equity, they're structured very, very, very similar every time. So we have what's called a preferred return. This is one of my favorite things as a limited partner and a general partner. So as a limited partner, preferred return, our typical preferred return is about 7%. So from the day your money goes in and we close on the property, we are accruing a 7% return for you every single year on the money that you put in.
Isn't that what the average for the stock market is?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, if you don't factor in fees, if you have a broker, if you add a broker on there, if you have someone doing it for you, you're probably going to net more like 5.5.
Mm-hmm. So right now, only with this one portion of the three things, you're already making what the stock market makes.
Yeah, more because the fees that are associated with the stock market, unless you're doing it on your own. And then if you're doing it on your own, you're probably like me and you're losing more than 7%.
Oh, yeah. The one time I tried to do it on my own, I lost. And I somehow lost money, even though I was investing in the same things that my broker was.
Oh, wow.
I was like, how am I messing this up? So...
Yeah. No, that's what I've learned about the stock market. I've learned enough to know that I should stick to real estate.
Mm-hmm. So you have 7% return.
7% preferred return. So any gains this property makes, preferred return, it's a Class A share. So you, as the investor, get paid before the general partnership can make any money. So that's a key piece that I love. It's a true win-win, right? Like. And now the way our deals are structured,
it's the thing that we talked about earlier, which is you needed how do you say it? You needed an incentive to give yourself an incentive.
Yeah, exactly. So look, I've got to go make, if Craig invests in my deal, I've got to make him 7% before I'm going to make any money. So how does it work after that? Well, over 7% for us is a 70-30 split. 70%, so let's say we make 10%. Most of our deals, by the way, our typical deal is 7% preferred return and an average annualized return of 17%. So that's our business plan. We do not move on a deal unless it meets that minimum criteria. And then we start to dig into it to see what the other things are and making sure that it's a very, very viable option that we're going to hit those numbers. But let's say we make 10%. Well, that 3% above and beyond the 7, you get all the 7 as the investor. The 3%, 70% of that goes to you, 30% comes to us. So now general partners are finally starting to make money. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we're not going to go through all this heartache and brain damage to make 30% of 3%. That's why we're targeting 17%. And so what we do is we have 2 waterfalls. So we call it a waterfall. Once we hit the 7%, it flows over. We get a little bit. You get the majority, 70%. Then once we hit 15%, we split it 50-50. So if we are making you 15% per year annualized, let's say we make you 20%, you're going to get 70-30 from 7 to 15, and then you're going to get 50-50 from 15 to 20%. So that's where our upside is. That's where we get rewarded, is when we've, come through with what we said we were going to do.
And also, let's point out the fact that some people are like, oh, you only get 50%. Yeah, but there's only a certain amount of general partners. It's not like you're splitting it amongst 200 people.
Yeah. So you mean on the general partnership side or the limited partnership?
The general.
Yeah.
I'm talking.
Yeah, as a GP, there's typically somewhere between, 3 and 7 general partners that are kind of running the deal.
Yeah.
Usually there's
that's
one
where
that's
you finally make the money.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to work your butt off. So
totally, and we're going to be in these deals. Most of these deals are 5-year holds. So if we find the deal we just did in San Marcos, well, we did it 5 or 6 months ago. $12.65 million. We had $4 million raised from our limited partners. By the way, as general partners of that $4 million, we're $1.5 million of that. Mm-hmm. So we're almost 33% of the money itself. So we're putting our money side by side. And we're really going to get rewarded as general partners by crushing the goal that we set out. So that's the real upside we're looking for, is like, okay, we really, this is a business where you want to under promise and over deliver. Mm-hmm. The biggest mistake I see investors make in these syndications is they get really focused on the average annual return, but not how they came to that conclusion. Because there's a lot of assumptions we have to make. For example, we have to assume how much rent will grow over the next 5 years. Well, if I'm an eternal optimist, you've met these people who just think everything's rainbows and butterflies, and last year was 20% rent growth, which it was. Well, this year's going to be 15%. Well, that's not normal. Normal rent growth's like 4%. So if I underwrote it at 15 and then down to 12, then down to 8, and I show you a 25% return, and you're like, 25%, that's better than 17, I'm going to go with this. But looking at the 17, the numbers are way more conservative. And if the rent growth happens to be higher, it'll be even better than the 25%. So there's assumptions that are made. And you as a limited partner, as a potential investor, you really want to be asking questions of those general partners. Like, what assumptions did you make to arrive at the return that you're showing me?
Okay, so how does one get involved into syndications? Especially if you're not... If you're the average person, you just want to be a limited partner.
Yeah, the average person is a limited partner. Well, there's 2 things, and I'll try and go as quick as I can here. Accredited investors are going to have more opportunities for this because they can see all the deals that are available. There's 2 types of deals. A 506C deal, that's for accredited investors only. The advantage to that for a general partner is they can go talk about that deal to the public. Like, I could share it on your podcast. I could go out to social media. I could put flyers on doors, whatever. So you're going to find out about that. But the problem is if you're not an accredited investor, then you can't invest in that. now enter the 506B. The 506B deal allows non-accredited investors to invest, but they have to have an established relationship with the general partner in order to invest in that deal. So if you are not an accredited investor, you need to establish a relationship with a company that does these kind of deals. So if you wanted to find us online to do that, you can do so at smartwealthequity.com. And there's some buttons on there you can click. It'll guide you to how you can reach out to us. And we'd love to chat with you about it if you are interested in investing in syndications. Something to keep in mind too is typically the minimum investment's around $50,000. That's a typical minimum investment. Sometimes you'll see opportunities that are less, but most of them are $50,000 or more. The other thing I would caution too is, all investments have risk, so make sure you really dig into the deal, ask questions of the general partnership team, ask questions of people you know, like, and trust, and maybe other people who have invested in this. And then lastly, the thing to keep in mind is this is money that you want to be able to put away and not need access to for at least 5 years. This is a mid or medium term investment. It's not something that's liquid. You need to be willing to let it sit in that deal, and whenever the deal has a disposition, then you should be getting that money back.
Thank you so much.
Perfect.
Can you say one more time how to contact you?
Yeah,
you have social media, all that stuff?
Yeah. So we put videos out on YouTube. Instagram's probably the easiest way. I actually do look at Instagram DMs. So Smart Wealth Equity on Instagram, you can hit us up there. YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, all those things are great. SmartWealthEquity.com is another great resource as well.
Awesome. So thank you so much for coming today.
Yeah, my pleasure. I appreciate you having me, Craig.
Thank you. All right. Have a great day.
Cool. You too.
Okay.